Hey everybody, Giselle Grenier here from artplace.ca. In today's video lesson, we're going to work on some stones. This isn't really part of the Spirit Stones project. These ones I'm calling Peekaboo Garden Rocks, and you will see why. So what I've done is I bought these, and if you've seen the other videos, you know this is just a repeat, so I'm going to make this fairly quick. Picked up a bag of these at Home Depot, and they're fairly clean, but what you want to do is you want to take some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel, have that ready. You want to wash these stones in warm soapy water using a scrubby pad, really clean them well, rinse, and then let air dry. Then go outside or in a well ventilated area, use rubbing alcohol with paper towel and give it a final wipe. Although we're not painting the stone completely, we are putting paint on it, so we want to make sure that there's good adhesion there. And then you let it air dry. So you can see these stones have a little bit of a different color. They're both from the same bag. This one feels a little bit shiny, so it's going to be interesting, you know, if the paint will even stick to this. It will, but because I created a whole bunch already. So I'm using the DecoArt Americana Décor Chalky finish paints for this. If you're working on a polished stone, so a stone that's super shiny, it's been polished, what you may want to do is give it a coat of, let's say, a matte medium to create some type of tooth. If you want to repaint the stones black, use black gesso. It just creates a tooth. You can even use a multi-surface sealer, which is translucent. And then you can just proceed as we go. So for the colors, we're going to be using carbon for the shadows and the pupils. And then for the, what do you call the whites of the eyes, these colors are Treasure, Rejuvenate, and Promise. So nice bright colors. You can use anything you want. And I'm also going to list the colors for the other stones that I've already created. The technique is the same. You just change up your colors. The one thing, these stones, you can make one stone in 10 minutes. It's the drying time that's involved. That's the whole thing. And then the prep, and then the finish. Okay, so I'm going to be using, brushes. So this is where it's going to be tricky depending on the size of your stone, the size that you want to make the eyes, and then how steady your hand is. I am terrible for painting perfect circles, so I'm not even going to try. So what I'm using to start the shadows and the webbing, I'm using round brushes, and this is a number 5 and a number 2 round. This is from Royal and Magnical. They're the Aqualon brushes. For the pupil, I'm going to be using a 20-0 round, and I'm going to also try with a stylus. And then for the varnishing, I'm going to be using a number 10 shader. And it's going to dampen my brush a little bit. And what I want to do is I'm going to use this as my palette. So to start off, I've got 2 medium stones and 1 small stone. My idea is to kind of make a little family like that. Okay, so I'm positioning the stones what I think they'll be used for, and even if, and then, you know, if I'm giving them away, I'll give them away as a set. If I'm selling them, I'm going to sell them as a set because they kind of work like this. I'm thinking, yeah, like that. And all the cracks in this stone, I'm going to use that to my advantage. So I'm going to paint the web, which is like the pocket. And what these stones look like is the black, it represents a hole in the rock, and there's eyes peeking out. And I'm just creating this is going to be quite narrow. And not making anything too smooth, because typically cracks in rocks aren't smooth. The webbing I'm not going to do with this stone, with this brush I should say, because it's too big. And this one here. And there really is no wrong way of doing this. So I know I am facing this towards me, so you really can't see. But like I said, there really is no wrong way. You just go with the flow. And this one here, I'm going to put this right here. And because these stones are dark, 1 coat is usually enough. But it all depends on the color of your stone. So if you've got really light stones, you may want to put 2 coats. That's up to you. And I don't want to have any ridges of paint. Now this chalky finish has a matte finish, which is perfect. I am going to be putting an ultra matte varnish on these because I'm assuming they're going to be placed outside. All right, so I did that, and then I did that, and then I did that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my number 2 round and I'm going to repeat, but this time I'm going to go outside and just create these cracks. And it's usually where there's been the bumps, little humps. Like this one here is 2 rounds, so I'll kind of go like that and I'll kind of finish it. And I can maybe make a little off one here. And I just realized that when I'm painting, the language that I use is really doesn't, here we go again, it really doesn't make sense. And just go in here. I could even add a little bit in here. So these stones, super simple project. These are great for kids. And, you know, a nice way to decorate even for Halloween. But these can go into your garden. And I have another project I'm going to be doing shortly, which is a house sign, which is a stone. So you want to let these dry before you work on the eyes, because when you work on the eyes, you need to make sure that the application is nice and fluid. With these paints, you can use a heat gun on them or hair blower and it dries beautifully. Excuse me. Oh, I had to stop there. I went into a coughing fit and I kind of bumbled up the stone there. So what am I going to do? I kind of messed that one up, preparing to cough. So I'm just going to change the shape a little bit and make it a little bit bigger on the bottom. Kind of looking here, that actually works out kind of nice. Tickling my throat. Go. Alrighty, that's it for that. And now you have to let it dry. You can see that it's starting to dry. The paint was a little bit thicker there. That's okay. So we'll let these dry. And again, you can use a heat gun to speed it up. Just remember the hot's gonna get rock. The rock's gonna get hot if you use a heat gun. So if you have a hair dryer, lowest setting, you know, and then put it on. If your rock is too hot when putting the paint on, the paint really is going to fuse before you've had a chance to blend. But these will be ready for the next stage in about 3 minutes. All right, so they've dried quite nicely. Now this is the part that I'm not a fan of doing this because I'm not, again, like I said, I'm not very good at painting circles. So what we want to do is we want to paint some wide circles for the eyes, and that part is the easy part when it comes to technique. So you're just painting circles, so you can make them rectangle, whatever you want. The pupil is where you're going to create the interest for expression. So touch, push, go around, touch, push, go around, and a dot in the middle. Touch, push, go around, touch, push, go around, dot in the middle. Oh, that's not too bad. Then, because I didn't quite go around, I can come back and try to fix that. This is where if the stone is hot, the paint's going to stick. So that one is done. And then I'm going to take yellow. Same thing. So this one's going to be here, this one's going to be here, this one's going to be here. So, okay, so yellow. Let's put this one here. Touch, push, go around. The yellow is a little bit more transparent because my brush had water in it. Not a big deal. I can just always add another coat. If your paint is too thick, like what I have on, there's another stone I did, there's paint ridges on it. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. You can even use a toothpick if you want. To me, myself, I like when the paint is thick because it creates some dimension. Now, if you wanted to use a stylus, I'm going to dip and just draw. And this one, I used the wrong side, the big side of the stylus. Here we go. I mean, it's okay. You just have to have the right amount of paint on there. I want these eyes to be a little bit wonky. There we go, like that. Now, this has to dry naturally, because especially if the paint is thick, if you use a heat gun on that, only the outside is going to dry, the inside won't. So this will take, this one and this one will take probably about 15 minutes to dry. This one, I can use a heat gun because it's pretty transparent. Use a heat gun on that, and then I'll apply another layer of yellow, and then I'll let that dry. All right, so they're nice and dry. I put an additional coat of paint on, except for this one. I put another one on here. So for the pupil, where you place the pupil is where it's going to give, where it makes it the expression. So if I'm going to place them like this, I want the pupil to be more in the corner, so it's looking over here. So you need a really good point on your brush, and all you're going to do is just paint the pupil. Then this one's going to be the same. It's going to be on the other side though. You can use a toothpick for this if you want. Okay. And this little one here, I'm going to put them at the top. So it looks like he's looking up. So what people are going to see is, oh, I shouldn't be doing this because they're going to fall over. So you're going to see that and see that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let these dry, and then I'm going to put a coat of varnish on them. And and once that's dry, I'll come back and I'll show you a whole bunch of other ones that I created, and I'll list those colors out as well. The choice of varnish that you use is up to you. I'm using Ultra Matte. This is a polyurethane varnish that's good for indoor and outdoor. And I'm going to use a smaller brush, number 10 shader. Usually I have a brush specifically for varnishing, which is a really large brush. It's a 1-inch oval wash brush, Majestic line. It's a little bit big for this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm primarily focusing on where the paint is. So I've got that covered. I'll let that dry, then I'll continue to work around. And this dries fairly quickly. If you're in a hurry, you can use your heat gun to dry it. I'd recommend against it. Let it dry naturally, especially if you're giving these away as a gift or selling them. I also added a few more little veins, little cracks. And there's honestly no real benefit to varnishing the stone where it's unpainted. I'm just doing it because I want the finish to be consistent. Now when you're varnishing, especially where there's cracks underneath the paint, make sure you've got a full coat of varnish. This one was the worst because there's actual pieces. So where there's paint, you want to make sure you get varnish right in there. And this particular rock is going to get about 4 coats of varnish, just to make sure I've got everything in there. Again, you can use it whatever finish you want. Now, an idea I came up with, but I didn't have the product, so I'll do another video specifically for when Halloween comes up. These little stones, and then for the eyes, when you paint the eyes, then you put some glow-in-the-dark medium where the eyes are, and then the glow in the dark, which is kind of cute. Alrighty, so let this little guy dry. So I'm gonna let it dry, come back. I'll do more layers of varnish, and then when it's all finished and ready to go, I'll bring in all the other stones so you can see what I've done. Okay, so it's all finished, so all varnished and ready for placement. Now, if you're giving them, if you want to give these away for somebody, you can always put their name on the back. So I'm going to put these over here. Oh, and I put a pad, I should have said this in the beginning, pad of palette paper there because this actual tabletop is glass, rocks, glass, don't mix. So you can see the different shapes. This is with Everlasting, and then I ran out and ended up using the DecoArt Americana Premium Acrylic Paint, the titanium white. The fluid acrylics are a bit thin. The traditions were actually pretty good, but this is nice and thick, and I like that. So I ended up using that for the rest of these. So position, and then these ones here, the colors of these ones, I used, what's this one? Innocence. Then I darkened it with a little bit of Romance, just a tiny bit. And that doesn't look right. I think I've got the wrong red. No, that's right. Okay, so that's that one. And then this one here is Escape with a tiny bit of Keepsake, just to darken it up a little bit. Okay, so Rejuvenate, and that's Promise, and that's Keepsake. So whatever colors you have, you don't have to get specific colors, and do some color mixing to get something custom. So there we go. So I really hope that you enjoyed these, and get these placed, and then just have fun with these. But really, you're just placing the pupil to create the, let's see if I can do this without it falling. If I break the table, Joel will kill me. Here we go. How cute are those? But you can even paint these all one color and then put the eyes in there. So, you know what inspired me for this? Let me reach over. This Aqualon webbing. I was experimenting with this, and I saw it, and I went, oh, that would look so cute. And then that's what inspired me to do these. So who knows where your inspiration will come from, but hopefully this will give you something to create something fun and get the kids involved. And like I said, there really is no wrong way of doing these. So I hope that you really enjoyed this project. So I'm going to clean up now, get ready to create some more spirit stones. So until I see you in those videos, stay inspired.